Ori and the Blind Forest came out of nowhere and surprised people with its mesmerizing story, magnificent quality, monumental gameplay, masterful soundtrack, and majestic graphics. Words simply cannot express how wonderful this game is. This is one of the few games that managed to hold my attention past the 2 hour mark, and that will be held up and hailed as the pinnacle of its platformer genre. Ori and the Blind Forest brings its A game in all regards. It has insanely beautiful graphical fidelity, it has tight controls which are easy to learn but hard to master, and it has a feels-inducing story that might have some gamers getting tearful. Truly, there is something for everyone in this masterpiece. When it comes to the story, you play as a creature called Ori who accidentally falls out of the spirit tree and lands in the middle of a jungle. You are adopted by this Pokemon-looking creature called Naru. We see quickly their lives together and what happens to them. Soon the state of the forest goes from bad to worse, and Naru dies in the first 5 minutes of the game. So while that opening is very impactful, it is one of the only points in the game to truly have a strong focus on the story. The rest of the game steps back and develops into a Metroidvania-style game, which means you run around and get items that unlock new areas of the world and allows you to explore more, as well as backtracking and getting more items a second time. Your mission as Ori is to restore life back into the forest and its dead animals. There's also this side character called Scene, who is played similar to Navi from Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time. Scene is a disembodied spirit who accompanies and guides Ori through the game and helps her and the player know what to do next. There is a deep ethereal voice that delivers minor exposition as the spirit tree. Where some games are heavy with their dialogue, Ori and the Blind Forest rarely uses the effect, but when it does appear, it's executed perfectly to drive the story in a minimalist narrative. The narrative though does appear during some levels and tells a little more of the story as the game plays, and it's always done well in the main game, but after playing the whole game, it never rose to the level of the opening segment. Instead, it gives mere flashes of brilliance versus a solid narrative. Yet the look and feels of the delivery of the story is amazing. While you are doing your best to restore life into the forest, you are chased and hunted by the main villain of the game called Kuro, that happens to be a gigantic owl. Even the villain looks unbelievably good and vibrant every time she is on the screen. The one thing I noticed about the story here is that every main or side character, including the villain in this game, has a sad or tragic backstory, which adds more depth and insight into their character. When it comes to gameplay and AI, the gameplay itself is really fun and it uses quite a few interesting gameplay mechanics that I've never seen. The level designs are very intuitive and well integrated. Puzzles are always daunting, but the fluid movement of Ori makes them fun and challenging. Since it's a Metroidvania game, you can pretty much go anywhere you please, and even exploit your skills to access areas you would typically go after you've unlocked a new power-up. Power-ups are so fun and are a joy to get to. Both the destination and journey are a lot of fun in this game. The pacing of this game is fluid and determined by you and your skills. And I would say that the average playtime would range about 7 to 8 hours. I clocked up over 10 hours because I enjoyed exploring every nook and cranny and stopped to admire the art. There's an achievement for completing the game under 3 hours, so that gives you an idea of how long the game can be if you're great at it. Gameplay and controls are super fluid and responsive. It's just fun to make Ori run around and jump, climb, stomp, dash, bash, glide, and so on and so forth. When it comes to the graphics, I heard about how gorgeous Ori and the Blind Forest was before buying this game. I've heard similar words on other games like Owlboy and Bastion and Transistor, which I will review in the future. At the same time, I've seen pictures of Ori and I was curious about this game. I'm not a huge fan of graphics though, as I feel a lot of times graphics allow games to ignore gameplay. However, when a game is great, graphics can enhance it. If you look at Witcher 3, it's a great game, but the graphics in it are fantastic and really add to a positive experience. But how great can graphics be in a 2D platformer? I feel there's a limitation to the graphics accomplishments, to the point where they can fall into an over-engineered category pretty quickly. However, here, less than 5 minutes into the game, I understood the graphical hype. I was blown away by the graphics. The opening is very cinematic and well crafted. This entire prologue section is just a visual feast. It's wordless, no words, nothing, and yet it shows time passing, emotion, and character growth. It's incredible and just looks amazing while doing it. When it comes to the soundtrack, the story and the music of this game are very touching and emotional. The sound is very enticing and it really helps bring out the inhabitants and the environment to life, as well as providing appropriate audio feedback of impending danger, which is directly not in front of the player's vision, but something they need to be aware of. The soundtrack is heavenly. The excellent soundtrack adds to the making of this game a perfect, quintessential platforming experience. It's a real shame that I cannot show you guys the soundtrack or make you hear the soundtrack due to the copyright laws of YouTube. The price of this game is less than $30, which is very reasonable. I do believe this game is well worth the full price. However, to every positive there is a negative. In the last 2 hours of this game, the difficulty spikes are insane. You will need to memorize movement combos and depend on the fast reflexes of your fingers and a good hand-to-eye coordination in order to get out of tricky places. Platformers are not really everyone's cup of tea. However, I will encourage everyone to give this game a try, just for its lovely story and fantastic graphics alone. In conclusion, Ori and the Blind Forest Definitive Edition is a perfect balance of style and substance. If you ever come across anyone who says that a perfect game does not exist, then make them play this game. Playing this game was a pleasure both in terms of visuals and audio. My experience playing this game was simply amazing, and I cannot wait for the sequel coming out maybe later this year or early next year called Ori and the Will of the Wisps. If you enjoyed this review, please like, share, and subscribe, and leave a comment. If you would like me to review any future indie games, I will be happy to do so. Thank you for watching and stay tuned for future videos. Bye guys.